All right. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Blake of Capital Concepts. So what's going on in the marketplace out there? We're hearing all kinds of crazy things. Inventory's low. Are there enough deals? All that kind of stuff. I imagine you guys are just doing a gazillion loans a month and all that sort of stuff, buying houses and...
Yeah, I mean, the loan business obviously is great. You know, we're blowing through loans, and we're having some banner months. You know, but on the real estate side, you know, it really causes a problem for me.
Yeah.
Because I like to keep everything.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And you know, it's like, oh, I gotta sell this cute little house, and I hate to sell things, but I mean, it's just, I mean, when I'm finished with these rehabs, you know, it's damn near appraisal plus 10% in a lot of these neighbors. And, you know, I'm having appraisers coming out today at 4 o'clock at a house in Katy. And the appraisal was, hard money appraisal 4 months ago was 360 something. And these people came, threw 420 offer at me before I'm even finished with the rehab. I'm still not finished. They've sold their house already.
Wow.
And just waiting. And it's just it's a crazy market, you know. It's a feeding frenzy. And I mean, yeah, I'm still buying houses at pretty good numbers. And but it's kind of one of these things. Do I keep on holding more and more and more, or do I ever start thinking about paying off more stuff?
Yeah, we looked at our portfolio this week, last 2 weeks, and said the theme of the earlier show was our babies are leaving. Like we started looking at a couple things, and it was like, you know, I could see these assets here. We've bought, I think we're at like 30 million. And we sat down and looked and said, these 4 to 5 million right here, we just gotta go. Because you start looking at how much equity some of these things have, and it's like, this is just getting, let's take some profits and then roll them into something else.
But see, that's where I differ, and that's where, you know, I'm a finance guy, so
Right,
I like
right.
finance, and when you sell, it's a taxable event versus you do a cash out. And net, it's not that much difference between the two in some cases, provided you get a good appraisal. Of course, an appraisal is a value of the past, not with the current value, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But
the good way to put that, because I think a lot of people miss this, is appraisals are always chasing market value.
yeah, up or down.
Yeah, up or down. Right, exactly. It's always chasing like what the current market value is.
Like if the market starts doing like it did in '09, what we'll do is we'll show from hard money and even not so much conventional, but the hard money, what we do is start shrinking the acceptable time period for comps, you know, and narrowing, you know, and, you know, instead of 6 and 12 month comps, you might be at 3 and 4 month comps. You know, don't catch a falling knife. Well,
That's
if you're
right.
comping stuff out 10, 20% higher when the market was higher, then you're in trouble. Of course, then you'll also do credit and borrower. You'll tighten up on all that stuff. I got off subject, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. You know, I've got a lot of assets, and do I pay them off or keep on letting them all ride? You know, with the inflation of these real estate prices, keep on pushing up. You know, I had a fun wanting to buy 80 something my houses.
Wow.
I had to think about it, but you know, there's a reason why they wanted to buy those houses, and it's a number one asset class to be in. I had somebody say, I think Merrill Lynch sent a buddy of mine has a relationship with him, forwarded me a newsletter this months ago, but predicting that it's the number one asset class to be in. And you know, a few years ago, I sold a bunch of my lower end properties, old wood frame houses, just not. And you know, I was thinking about that. If I sold these, I'm proud of my portfolio, as kind of what you were touching on trimming off some of this. Culling the herd.
Culling the herd. That's right.
I had to bring the ranching in there. But, you know, and I mean, I've got houses where my wife could go knock on the door at almost any house I got, you know, and you feel safe.
Yeah.
There might be a few sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
But,
a couple.
Yeah. But, you know, it's yeah, I'm proud of my portfolio, so I kind of hate to let go of the golden goose a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Because I mean, that's why I bought the ranch. It's why I bought the big house. It's why I bought, you know, a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's I know a peer of mine that started buying. A lot of the local people know who he is. He started buying a month before I did.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think he sold his stuff when he thought was top of the market a few years ago. And he bought an office building. You probably know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But all that stuff he sold, he thought he was selling at the top of the market. Well, where's the market now?
Yeah, I've run into a couple of guys who sold apartment complexes in 16, and they were like, "This is the top of the market." And I'm like, "I don't think this is going to be the top of the market." And now they're just killing themselves. They
Well,
didn't
so
hold on to it.
let's touch on this. People don't ever talk about this. Oh, I'm an apartment investor. Well, that's great. You're going to sell out in a few years, and then you won't have any investments. I see
That's
it
right,
time
yeah.
and time. You know, because that's the game. You sell it, and then you got to find another one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think a lot of the longer term, lifelong investors, or whatever you want to call it, are single family guys. Now, of course, you've heard me talk about liquidity, which is a big deal. But I mean, other than that, it's just, you know, if you want some cash, you can sell some off. You don't have to sell your whole portfolio.
Yes, I agree with you on this, and that is because there's always this. How can I put this? There's a stigma around, like, you've got to go from single family to multifamily. And I've always said, well, I've not met any multifamily guys that really hold long term. They kind of, you know, now don't get me wrong, those guys are out there, but let me put it this way, they don't go to any of the real estate events I've been to. There's maybe a dozen guys in this city. You know some of them, I know some of them. But you go to a seminar, 600 people in that room, they're in and out of deals every couple of years. And like you said, they're looking for the next deal. So the irony is they want to be passive investors, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And they're just selling and buying and selling,
Well,
as opposed to single family guys, which seem to hold on to stuff a lot longer.
Well, and I'm going to say something that's going to ruffle some feathers right now. It drives me nuts, everybody. I retired from real estate. I retired with real estate from my day job. No, you switch careers is what you
That's
did.
exactly right.
And I mean, fine, it, you know, financially rewarding, this, that, the other, but I don't care. And now, if you're truly passive, you get the lower returns.
That's
If you're
right.
in a multifamily, you know, the
That's right.
professional, you get into that conversation about professional investors, lead investors. Those are the ones that make the money.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, you can be passive in a bunch of things. Real estate, obviously, is something we believe in. But no, I just wanted to touch on that. That people do get in and out on the multifamily, and then 20 years later, 10 years later, they're totally out.
Yeah, there's no. I always find it fascinating. The people that are most successful in any asset class is they start in that asset class, and typically they don't leave.
Diversification. What? No, not what was it? Peter Lynch. Mm-hmm. He basically said, invest in what you know.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And Dr. Dotzauer used to say, what do you know better? Out of everything that you own, what do you know better than the house you live in? You know the neighborhood, you know the neighbors, you know the schools, you know all the draw. I mean, you know that asset better than anything else. And his argument was always, well, why don't you just buy the house next door and rent it out? And I always thought, now that's a very eloquent sounding, easy solution, but he's not wrong. And
Well,
he's
it depends
probably
on
right.
your price point of house.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I'm like, not renting anything in my neighborhood, right? And yours either. But the idea is that, hey, you're in this neighborhood, or maybe you do the neighborhood across the street or 2 miles down the road,
No,
you
I
can
got
rent
it.
those out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never run into an apartment guy that is not always churning apartments. They're like day traders. That's really what it turns out to be.
There's somebody here in town who's.
Well, let's do this. Let me give it. Well, let's go to a break, and then we'll come back. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network, and we're still live on Facebook. So we're switching over, doing the next section on the radio.
Maybe I need to withdraw that statement. But what I was going to touch on is, these big multifamily guys.
Oh, yeah.
I own all these assets. Well, how many partners do you have on?
Oh, that's my favorite thing. It's like, well, I'm in 5,000 doors. You got 10 grand in like 12 syndications, right? It's like, come on, man. All right, ready? Welcome back. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Blake at Capital Concepts. So,
Is that your bedtime sexy?
welcome
back.
Welcome back, everyone.
Nighttime radio.
And welcome back. We're going to start a new show called Real Estate After Dark. And so Rob is fashioning this after the Playboy Network had a show. I think it was called. What was it called?
I guess he's a fan of.
I guess so. I didn't know. I didn't even know about this thing, right? And then I started researching. It was a show they had in the 70s for like 2 or 3 seasons. And they just had all these like super famous guests on, and musicians and artists, like all the crazy like top tier people. And they had this like mid-century modern house that they would do it in. And, they were doing drinks, and then they would have like a musical guest, and then have interviews and stuff. It was really good.
What's the guy's name in Las Vegas in the movie Casino?
Oh, yeah.
He ran the casino,
Yeah.
and then he had his own show. For
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. So it's like, we're gonna do a monthly show, and it's gonna be called Real Estate After Dark. So I'm gonna have to change the tonality of my voice. Got to be a lot more smooth. We'll be smoking cigars when we do it too. So
Anyway, yeah.
But anyways, to get back to kind of what's going on in the marketplace and all that. I mean, it's interesting for me to see how things have changed in the last year.
Did you see this latest Biden proposal?
No, I can't keep up with the craziness.
No. Here, dun dun dun. It's hopefully it doesn't go through. It's a little crazy, but
Yeah.
for anybody that's been affected and affected by COVID, and is in forbearance, all servicers must offer up to a 40-year extension to the mortgage.
Are you serious?
So a 30-year could be a 70-year mortgage.
No kidding.
And I think they're, if I recall, waive late fees and all this other stuff.
This is what I keep telling folks. I'm like, if you're waiting for the 2008 style crash, the government's not going to allow it.
Well, see, that right there would keep it from crashing.
Yeah.
And let's not even talk about Hidalgo not letting us foreclose here in town. But that's a whole nother story.
This was crazy. I'm sitting there. I'm in this landlord group on WhatsApp, and I get this message like Monday night. They were like, guess what auction is not going to happen tomorrow? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So Hidalgo has effectively canceled the foreclosure auction.
Friday at 5 o'clock, she did that. I went ahead and kind of pitching in, and I was on the webinar or Zoom call with Glenn Lee and the judge, not Hidalgo, there's somebody else was hearing it. And yeah, it was disgusting. I mean, there seems like some valid points we're trying to argue. And then she's, I'm not going to accept.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
We're just done.
We're just not going to do
No contemplation. She just, boom.
I don't think people understand. This is classic. If you go back to what Obama did when GM was going through I think people forget bankruptcy law was turned upside down in 2008, and bondholders were bailed out. I mean, there was crazy stuff that went on. And so these government entities, they just don't care. Like, if they don't want to foreclose, we're going to find some way we can't have the auction. Like, they're going to figure it out, right?
Well, that's the thing. Per the statute or whatever, they're supposed to give another place for it. If they can't have it there, she was calling for emergency or whatever. You can't have more than 15%. Well, currently we're at 7%, so we're not exceeding that. And then they're supposed to give another venue to have it out.
Yeah.
but
So
they
her
won't.
issue was, it was a safety issue because all of these people were going to be at the auction.
Right. And this place is only closed during the auction hours. Then it's open back up.
Right. Then it's opened up and it's fine.
So, I mean, it's clearly politics at
Yeah.
play. And it's
In fact, I went to, if I'm not mistaken, it's not the same place, but it's a place down the street from there. I went to a concert there by candlelight. We did Vivaldi by candlelight there.
Vivaldi.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, a month ago. It was great. They had these 4 violinists there. It was amazing. Anyway, so I thought it was funny when they canceled it. I was at a concert there like a month ago.
Yeah.
We could have held the auction, no problem.
Yeah.
We even had a bar in the back and everything.
I've been trying to foreclose on somebody since I think it's June.
Wow.
have been trying to foreclose on somebody. So it's,
We have some private lenders, and we basically just came out and said, we sent a note to all of our private lenders, look, if you're holding some bad paper, just give us a call. Let's see if we can buy the note, or if we can work something out, see if we can get that asset kind of back under control. But yeah, they've been sitting some of these guys been sitting for a year. So it's going to be interesting to see, of the who's who of real estate investors, all of a sudden they start making the foreclosure list. You're like, hey, what happened here, buddy?
oh, yeah. I mean, just step past that one.
We'll let that one go. But to go back to kind of the foreclosure piece, on the GSE sponsored mortgages, there's not going to be this huge foreclosure. Forbearance ends up in foreclosure, and there's going to be thousands of foreclosures all over the nation. I'm just not, or I should say millions. I'm just not seeing it because they're just not going to allow it.
Well, and they'll get creative with these 40-year extensions, and then late fees and deferments all get, put on the back or even waived on I think the late fees. But I don't know what's going to go. It's feelings over facts these days.
Yeah.
And you might have laws on the books, but like you mentioned earlier, that doesn't really matter.
It doesn't mean anything.
And they're playing that pandemic card and stuff like that. Where we're the only major city in Texas, I believe, that's not allowing them.
Which is crazy because they're allowed in Austin. You would think.
Dallas.
And Dallas, yeah. And it's like not in Harris County. Yeah. So what you're seeing out there in the landscape of investing for new investors, I think one of the things that I've noticed when I've started reconnecting with real estate investors, we've hosted some events here, and we've been to a couple events in the last couple of weeks, is investors that have not been investing in the last year are now kind of coming out, with their shells, if you will, and their holes in the ground. Yeah, and they're starting to look around and they're going, wow, this market's changed a lot in 12 months. It's a whole different ballgame out there. Inventory down 30%.
Yeah,
it's a
things are flying
different
off
deal.
the market. Like I said, this contractor got halfway done with the rehab, and I don't know how long it lasts. There are still people with certain situations, distress situations, where you can buy it, and some of that comes down to salesmanship and solving a problem, right? But with hedge funds in Houston buying at 90 cents on the dollar in some cases, it's hard for the average Joes to come in and get a smoking deal because somebody can sell it somewhere else and make an extra 10 grand on it or something like that. And when you were bringing up the topic, I was like, I don't know, is it kind of getting to the point where maybe new investors, first timers, maybe need to look at buying a fully rehabbed house and just putting down 20%? Because if they're buying a house that needs rehab at 85 to plus, closing cost, I mean, look, I love my hard money loans, don't get me wrong, but closing cost and rehab costs and boom, 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 well, I don't know, maybe because of the market, maybe that's a way they can go if they can't find or source the deals,
Well, it's interesting. Brian was down at the foreclosure auction in Fort Bend, and they were going to go and buy a house.
Oh, you mean the neighboring county right next door?
Yeah,
the
next
same
door to
people
Harris
probably?
County. Yeah, literally the second largest county in Houston, right? So they had a property they were looking at, and he said, Jason, by the time it went on the auction block, if you added rehab, it was easily 10, 15% above market for what the other properties were selling for. So I think you're absolutely right. What ends up happening is these investors get in this feeding frenzy, and they don't realize, hey, you can buy the house next door that doesn't need rehab, that's ready to go, for probably 10% less than what you're
and hit the ground running.
And hit the ground, yeah, and you're off to the races. All right, we get right back. We will we'll talk more with Blake, Capital Concepts, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Yeah, I totally agree with you. You get north of 80%, it's like, I might as well just go next door, buy the one next door, and call it a day.
So you could kind of push, where you always were 70, 75, and, if you really like 70, 77. But now you start getting 80 because you're speculating. But if it's at 100,000 now, you could probably sell it for 105.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever. So it's...
You ready to go, A-Rock? Yes, sir. All right.
2 more segments left.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Blake of Capital Concepts. So we were talking earlier about, hey, you get to a certain point where you're paying so much for these distressed properties that it may make sense to go to the house next door, make an offer, put 20% down. While that loan is closing, you can go ahead and start advertising for a tenant, get them in that house.
Now, the other perk, if you buy one like that, is you can more predict where your houses are going to be versus being shotgunned all over now. You might be able to target neighborhoods better, is all I'm going with that. Before I bought that home buying franchise, I used to live off Braeswood and Chimney Rock, and then so I was buying Missouri City, Hunters Glen, stuff like that, and then Sunnyside. Those were both close to me, and but then when I got that franchise, I was like, okay, here's a good deal in Kingwood. Here's a deal
you're
here,
driving all over town, right? Yeah.
So now that's why, it's all over the place. But anyway, that would be a nice to have, or a little additional factor. If you live in Richmond, you can focus on, what is that, Terra?
Yeah, Terra.
I don't know why I went Richmond in this
I know,
conversation.
that's okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned Terra. The other day I was looking around. I'm like, are there any houses below $200,000 in Terra? I mean, remember you used to go in there and buy them for like 60, 70 G's, and now I don't think there's anything below 200. It's wild how fast they appreciated.
Then all the run properties, Teal Run, Pheasant Run, and used to be able to get them. Well, now I'm going back 10 years.
I was going to say, you're going to start
30,000,
you're going to start dating yourself here.
Yeah.
So, but the reality is, it's like the reason those markets are so good is they were for first-time home buyers, right?
And they made sense as a rental.
Yeah, and those markets in Houston are changing rapidly, absolutely changing rapidly. So, what do you see on the lending side that's changed in the last year for investors? It seems like there's a lot more non-QM stuff out there, and Wall Street's really getting involved in the lending side.
Right. I mean, and we've talked about that. Basically, the GSEs are going to reduce their stake in the market or whatever. And but so many Wall Street people, so to speak, were sitting on the sidelines. So they've come up, and it's improved over the last 5 years or something, the non-QM stuff. And now there's so many different products. The thing is, with the non-QM, I'm not a fan of doing your whole portfolio with that, because a lot of them come with prepayment penalties. But, I did a loan with a company about a year ago. I bought down 4 points, which was expensive on, like a $1.2 million loan, right? But the break-even point was inside of the prepayment penalty. Like I had a 5-year prepay. And what it did is it got me about $800 more a month cash flow for the next 25 years. So I've always been, a shorter AM guy, 15-year guy, and but that just kind of made sense to me. It's almost like buying another house or two.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, now there's more and more products coming out. I mean, our hard money business is doing great. We're closed as quick as anybody, if not faster than anybody in town. Once I have appraisal, if we need to close, I can draw ducks in 30 minutes to 2 hours. I could close one in 3 days about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So that business is strong. Conventional lending is there. I think the rates are going to start going up, starting easing up, which will have a effect on prices, right? People are payment sensitive. Lower interest rate, lower payment, but as the prices go up, which is driving up prices, but as the interest rates go up, then they can afford a little bit less house. So that's going to tepid the market a little bit. But when are they, they've gone up. I think the 10-year treasury's gone up, but how much are they going to mess with that? Because if these foreclosures start to hit or something like that, then they're going to need to keep them falsely low like they've done for a while. So I don't know. When everybody talks about this crash nationally, a lot of people hear the national news. Well, yeah, I'd be really nervous. I lived in New York or California right now, right?
Yep.
but we still have affordable housing here, and we have such an influx of people moving to Texas. You know, I mean, that's going to prop it up.
One of the things I've said is California, New York, there are folks that are stuck there because it's difficult to get out still. But when all these markets open back up, and we're predicting our first trip to California to be sometime in August. We think they're going to be open by August. How many folks are going to say, okay, I'm done with all this craziness. It's almost been 2 years. I'm selling and I'm moving to Florida, Texas, Arizona, Nevada. Like I'm done. And so I think even the migration we've seen here in Texas, I think it's just a trickle compared to what we're going to see over the next 2 years.
Interesting. So, did you see? I think Jamie Dimon even came out something. New York's passing another state tax.
Oh no, I didn't see this.
And they're just the highest tax in the country, and all this other stuff. And it's just talking about, you know, a lot of millionaire, $1 million a year people are moving away because of that kind of stuff.
It gets to a point. It's so egregious. Like, look, we're out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so expensive to live here. Like, we're just not willing to do it. Pay their exit tax to get out of the state, and they're just not coming back.
And that brings me to you said exit tax. I remember Cayman Islands has a stamp tax. I think it's 7.5% when you buy something. You're done.
Oh, no
property
kidding.
taxes stuff. I'm sorry. Why
No,
you mentioned tax?
Yeah, I was like, you know, I've been we're flirting with this idea of getting a dual citizenship so we can get other passports from other countries. And so we've been doing a little bit of research and working with a couple of folks, and we're having these conversations right now. Should we diversify in single family internationally? We understand single family real estate. It makes a lot of sense to us. Instead of me trying to figure out Louisiana's crazy real estate
Napoleonic
laws.
law.
If you guys want to see crazy real estate laws, look at Louisiana's Napoleonic parish by parish law. It's bananas, right? So instead of figuring out Louisiana,
So stay away from France then.
so, yeah, I don't want to go to France either, right? You know, what about Mexico? Like, what about some of these other places? And we're going through that process right now, kind of discovery. Like, what's it look like to operate a small real estate portfolio in some of these other markets?
Well, when I went to Italy, you know, there's some nice little places in Positano or wherever. And
but the wife loves that. Oh, well, we gotta go. We gotta buy something here so we can travel here.
no,
every quarter.
my accountant actually
Oh,
does.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's you know me. I'm a little crazy. It's you know, we've got multiple beach houses, nice bay house, ranch house, and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, we still need a place in Colorado or maybe Utah.
Oh yeah, oh, both those. Would be
And
great.
then she said, well, what about New Braunfels? I'm like, okay, we'll buy a place in New
We'll
Braunfels.
do it, yeah.
So last week we drove up and looked at something right there on the Kamal River. We ended up not getting it, you know, but I guess I got to get a river property.
That's right. Yeah, I'm right now. I'm shopping Vegas, and then somebody put a little bird in my ear about, you know, it'd be really cool if we had a place like Playa, Cozumel, or Cancun. And I was like, you know, that's not a bad idea. So I started doing some research, and I actually posted something this morning. So we'll see. I've looked at prices. I'm like, you know, if the Airbnb numbers look, and then the other problem is when you started showing me all the ranch stuff. So now I'm looking at ranch places now too, and I'm like, all right, we got to put this in a priority list here. Otherwise, it's just going to be too much too fast. But yeah, if you can operate these things and they make a little bit of money, I mean, it kind of makes sense to just go ahead and get them. I mean, what are you going to do with the river place? You guys going to Airbnb that?
Yeah, and then maybe it's a retirement place. So Airbnb it, and then, of course, how many retirement places do you need?
Yeah, no kidding. All right, we get back from the break. We're going to talk more with Blake, Capital Concepts. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
Yeah, we're getting too many houses, probably. Well, I mean, so the beach out, they're both beachfront. They're in Sea Isle. And now I finally got the second one up and going. That's the one where I had sand to the beach, took the wrong kind of sand to the beach.
Oh, and they throw a fit when you do that.
General Land Office, Coastal Resources Department, City of Galveston.
Yeah, and you don't know until you do it, and they're
Well,
like,
they
what are
didn't
you
know.
doing?
They didn't know. They were like, okay, what do I do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Literally, the assistant city engineer didn't. Anyway, we got that. We got a nice bay house we got down there, Bay Harbor, 3,000 square feet, blah, blah, blah. Great place, great views of the bay. Now we got the ranch. You know, if we get we do want a place in Colorado. Do I buy? And New Braunfels, I love little Camp Warnicky estates, but they're never on the market more than one day.
Oh yeah, you ready? All right. Welcome back, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Blake at Capital Concepts. So you're mentioning all the places. I'm testing one out right now. I've got a place for the summer in Lake Conroe. So I'm kind of seeing what's lake life versus beach life and all that. This is the fun part of this is what we talk about on Real Estate After Dark, because this is like the fun part of real estate that people don't, how can I put this? Most people don't get to this point in their real estate career where it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to have a lake house and a beach house and a this and a that. And it's like, well, just add it to your portfolio with all your other assets, right?
So, but the thing is, I was telling somebody, well, I'm a real estate guy, so I have a I real estate. If I was a stock guy, I'd probably have stock
tons
in
of
this.
stock, yeah.
Right. So,
but nobody can live in the stock, so that's no fun, right?
unless it's a REIT.
Unless it's a REIT, no. yeah. What you can't, yeah.
No, I'm teasing. Heck, it's got an invite to go to Tahoe, Lake Tahoe.
Oh, Tahoe's great.
And which side do you get?
You got to be. I think you got to be on the Nevada side. Depending on how often you're there, it's probably the Nevada
yeah,
side.
Taxes are lower.
Yeah,
fine. Take a 20-minute drive to the other side. Something big, beautiful lake there. You got skiing. It's like if I buy something in Colorado, I want something that's fun in the summer and the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to a few places. Still hadn't been to Telluride, and I want to go to a couple others. But no, anyway, real estate's. I think kind of like what you say on one of your tagline. You think it's expensive. Wait.
Yeah, you think expensive now? Just wait.
So
just wait.
I mean, or it kind of reminds me of people timing the market and the stock market, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fine, we'll be dips and up and down and up, but what are the prices going to be 10 years from now?
Higher.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good point. You've been doing this a long time. Statistically, whether the price is going to be 5 minutes from now or 5 years or 50 years from now, it's more likely 99% chance it's going to be higher.
Everybody's saying, oh, the market's seller's market. Hell, I just bought something, 60 cents on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good deal in any market.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And Fox Run subdivisions, single days on the market, things are selling really quick, So I don't know. I want to keep everything, but I guess I need to sell some every now and then.
Yeah, that's kind of what we ran into. One of the other challenges, and it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this, is just getting them rehab fast enough. That's the other thing we're running into. It's like, it just seems like, especially with the freeze, like we're finally through all that crazy nonsense. And of course, what was interesting is we found it was the copper that was the issue, not the galvanized, right? It was the copper and then the connections to the PEX in some cases. But we're finally through all that, and it's like, it's still just getting them rehab fast enough so we can turn them, refinance them, and then move on to the next one.
Well, that's the thing, getting enough of them turned so you refinance a blanket at a time, portfolio and stuff like that. So anyway.
Not bad being a real estate investor.
I hate real estate. No, it's a drug. I mean, I don't have to do anything anymore. I just do it, just stay active. My lending does well with, I stepped away from originating, and, I tried to get project managers. I'm still too involved on that because I can't ever seem to be happy with who I get. But, it's just hard for me to unplug, so I just keep on buying and keep on doing stuff. And, I think everybody wants. I promised my daughter I'd retire at 50, and my accountant says, Blake, you can. Like, yeah, but I like to buy things. So I'm still working. I don't know. I think I bought about everything I could buy, though.
Well, you get to that point, too, and this is what I tell new investors is when you get into this business and you start building a reputation that you can close and all that, it's one of these things that you'll read and think and grow rich. It's like you just start attracting deals. You get a phone call from some guy that you met somewhere. Hey, man, I think I got something. And you start building a career in this, and you realize, oh, well, I don't have to stop. The deals keep coming to me. You still got to kind of work for them. But you start to build this synergy and this momentum, and you're like, well, why would I stop? That's the tough part, I think, is like, Rob and I talk about this. When is enough enough? When do you finally say,
My wife says, Blake, when are you going to be happy with what you got? Or why aren't you ever happy with what you got?
you're like, I am, but more is always better, right? N+1 is always better.
What am I going to do with my time?
Yeah. What you can only. I've talked to a lot of guys that sold companies, that worked in them for a long time, and they were able to play golf for 2 or 3 weeks before they drove their wives and kids crazy. Where it's like, okay, Dad, you got to go find the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and plus, you kind of look around like, I kind of want to be productive. Good vacation, couple vacations every year, that's fine, But then you're like, okay, well, now what do I do?
Well, I guess my son's in 7th grade, so I got another five and a little bit over 5 years. Mm-hmm. So we can't take all the crazy vacations during the semesters and all that stuff. So, and and this whole pandemic thing sure has put a damper on. I want to do a bunch of world traveling and stuff, take the kids everywhere. But now we've lost a year, we might lose more. I think I might try to do international this year, but. I wanted to take the kids around the world before they leave me, and because they may or may not be able to afford that by that time. And
well, then they get busy with careers and families and all that other stuff, right? Cycle kind of starts all over again.
Busy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. That's my thing. But the market's great. Real estate's been great to me, and flipping's one thing, but flipping's a job, and you look at people. I mean, I'm in real top producer mastermind, and there's guys that have big machines for flipping, 250, 300 flips a year.
Yeah, that's big time.
But they don't have many rentals.
Right. So they're always chasing.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It's grab them, hold them, pay them down. Mm-hmm. And if you still work in your day job, put them on. I'm a fan of put them on shorter amortization. You look over there, wow, I got a lot of equity. Let me pull some cash out and go
do it again.
Whatever, right.
What's the best way for them to get a hold of the team over at Capital Concepts?
Best way is, online. We got 4smartmoney.com. That's the number 4smartmoney.com. Or local in Houston, it's 713-651-9500. Or up there in Dallas, it's 972.
Uh-oh.
573-9200. Or you let me simplify things. 877-651-9500.
There you go. We'll get you to the right office.
Yeah.
We'll get you to the right office.
Yeah, 972-573-9200.
But y'all do stuff all over the state. I've talked to Sean before about Surfside. He's like, we can totally do that. So it's like any place over the state you guys
El
can
Paso, we could do something like that. I mean, I've just recently got licensed in Florida and Georgia. Got some other states kind of working on.
That's what you need. You need a place down in Florida.
I know, 30A, right?
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
It takes about it takes one day, leave first thing in the morning, get there in the afternoon.
That's right. Yeah, and you're down there, and you're on the beach. So I think the best beaches in the country are right down there. That Destin, Pensacola, all that area. It's fantastic.
It's funny that when you're driving that way, you look at that water like in Alabama and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, it may look worse than Galveston. And then you make the turn, you get down there in Florida. There you go. There's the pretty stuff.
It's literally right there when you cross over Orange Beach at the Floribama, right? That bar right there. I swear, as soon as you pass over Alabama, you hit Florida, and you're like, oh, geez, this looks like the Bahamas. Like, it gets nice quick.
And no, that's. But I remember driving there. I was like, ew. So, in Bahamas, we went to Bahamas right when the pandemic was starting last March.
Oh, really?
And people, cancel. I'm like, heck no.
No, we're going to go.
We went there. And everything was stocked on stores and everything.
Oh,
except the last couple of days before we were there roughly a week, 9 days or something. When they closed the Starbucks down in the hotel.
That's when it gets serious.
Yeah. So everybody started freaking out on
That's
the
what's
island.
like. It's like, honey, time to get the kids and get out of here. It's getting a little, getting a little tribal.
And then there was that little fear that, are we going to be able to get back
That's
to
right.
the States?
Yeah. Can we get back? So, all right. My guest today has been Blake over at Capital Concepts. Thanks for your time. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Look at that. Knocking it out. Yeah, I was driving. You were mentioning.